I knew it, I flipping knew it. I've talked about this various times in my previous Kaiju No. 8 videos. Kafka Hibino is going to be kept alive to be used as a weapon by the Defense Force. Honestly though, with what just went down, he is lucky they're not chopping him up. And that's not the only thing I was right about. I'd actually theorised that Director Shinomiya's wife was a Defense Force officer who lost her life in battle. I hadn't mentioned it in my videos before, so I've only got Betty Adams and Dan Exclaims to vouch for me, because the theory came up during one of our conversations. I've written a whole separate theory video about the past history of the Shinomiyas, which included this, but unfortunately I didn't get to release it before this chapter dropped, and now it feels a little bit redundant. It's such a pain, but I might be able to repurpose the video a little. Let me know if you still want it and I'll drop it next week, seeing as there's no actual chapter. Kaiju No. 8 chapter 38 treats us to a big slice of information pie. And we got to see a brand new character who looks goddamn cool. Let's take a look at everything that went down and discuss everything we've learned from this latest installment. But before we do that, please do me a massive favour and hit the like and subscribe button down below. Give the notification bell a slap so you don't miss an upload. And finally, play the intro. Chapter 38 begins with Kafka hitting the dirt. I guess a combination of losing control of his body, almost crushing the director into dust, and piercing his own chest took it out of the poor guy. Next thing you know, the director is telling someone to put away their weapon. And who the hell is this? Okonogi? Look at your fucking weapon, bro! I already like you. Okay, so, quick note. I wrote and recorded this video on the day the chapter dropped. And if you're unaware, when the official translation's released, they occasionally re-upload the chapter if they find any errors or mistranslations. Well, guess what happened here? Turns out my man's name isn't Okonogi, and it's actually Narumi, which is way better in my opinion. But due to this, you can expect to hear me calling him Okonogi for the rest of the video. Never mind though, we'll get him next time, comrades. Okonogi replies to the commander by stating, "When you didn't signal for backup, I assume you intended on dying." Wait a damn minute, Okonogi! This is you? Give me a minute to recover, for pity's sake! This guy's gorgeous! How cool are those eyes? People are really gonna like you. After Okonogi's remark that he assumed the director had intended on dying, Director Shinomiya brushes it off as if he would have been fine, like the absolute savage he is. He then goes on to requesting medical aid for Kafka with concern that his core may be damaged. A short time later, after our favourite scary dad has had a few plasters slapped on his face, we see him surrounded by his council in what seems to be an emergency meeting. Isao then confirms the theory I've had all along. They plan to keep Kafka alive and use Kaiju No. 8 as a weapon for the Defense Force. Once again, I called that shit. He's immediately met with resistance as others begin to chime in on how dangerous it will be. But he just slaps that shit away and tells them that he deems him to be controllable. But hold on, he deems him controllable? Are you having a laugh, pal? He just clapped you 6 ways to Sunday and you deem him controllable? Okay, bro, god damn. That's some next level trust you're putting on display there, my dude. How none of your buddies didn't call you out for that shit, I don't know. Actually, I do know. The director continues by stating how he's concerned they'd never be able to reproduce the level of power Kaiju No. 8 displayed if they converted him into weaponry. He then makes a very interesting comment about the fact it may have even ended up in cold storage, along with No. 6, due to lack of a compatible user. Isao stresses the importance of using their force in the most optimal way, and when Eyepatch challenges him by saying there is no precedent for this, the director flexes his killer eyebrows and shuts him the fuck up. He then goes on to remind them all of the series of cataclysms involving No. 6 10 years ago. Over 200 officers and 3 captains lost their lives, including his wife. So I want to talk a little bit more about this later, but can we just take a moment to freak out about Kaiju No. 6? Oh my lord, does he sound like a bad boy? That is a serious body count. As I mentioned before, I'd theorised about Isao's wife being a Defense Force officer before, but it's kinda crazy to have that confirmed now. The Director General continues with a breakdown of the Defense Force's current strength in regards to fighting Daikaiju. There are just under 30 officers capable of fighting against them, and less than 10 who can solo them. Against identified Kaiju threats, this number gets even lower. Isao mentions that with their current power, if they were to face a swarm of Kaiju that exceed their estimations, they will be doomed. He sees Kaiju No. 8 as a beacon of hope. Honestly, after saying all that, the director definitely has me convinced. Less than 30 who can fight Daikaiju? In the whole Defense Force? That is crazy. But does anyone else think it's mental that there are still a bunch of people who can solo those motherfuckers? They've clearly been eating their Weetabix. Identified Kaiju are a different kettle of fish though. It's no wonder it took all that effort to take down No. 10. And even after all that, people are still opposed to Isao's plan. Cut to a hospital room and Kafka is having a not so sweet dream about a young Mina Ashiro crying over what I can only assume is a dead pet. He's reminded of how much he hates kaiju, and that's when we understand that Kafka was completely willing to die, rather than fully turn into a kaiju. Director Shinomiya is waiting by his bedside, and much to the director's surprise, Kafka is immediately relieved to see him alive and well. Because if the worst had come to pass, he'd never be able to look Hikaru in the eyes again. This was a huge moment for Kafka. You can tell by the surprise on Isao's face that he wasn't expecting that kind of human concern. It's the little things like this that are going to go a long way into convincing the director that he's human. Well played, my guy. Kafka wonders whether the director has decided to see him as a human, but the man wastes no time in shutting that down. He still sees Kafka as a kaiju, and for the foreseeable future that isn't going to change. But he is willing to put the matter of Kaiju No. 8 being a threat to the side for the time being, and has even called Kafka by his name. Unfortunately for Kafka, many are opposed to letting him live, so it's up to him to prove his usefulness to the Force. We end the chapter with a jump to Kunitachi City, where Kaiju No. 9 has just shed his skin like the sneaky little bitch he is. We close with him saying, better take that kaiju power that's fallen into human hands and give it back to the kaiju. Okay, so there is so much to unpack here. Kaiju No. 8 just molted. He straight up shed his skin like a snake and then goes on to say that his body is ready? What the shit is that about? Snakes shed their skin for a number of reasons, but essentially they do so to replace their old, beaten, worn out skin with fresh, new, younger, healthier skin. The process also removes parasites and other things that might be lurking. So for Kaiju No. 9, we can assume that he's just rid his body of any weakness and impurities and made it as strong as can be. What concerns me is that this has given the bastard enough confidence to think he can take on Kafka. The first time they met, Kaiju No. 8 made a fool of him, so I'm surprised to see No. 9 coming back to the front lines so soon. I'm bloody scared. And what about this kaiju power that he mentioned? We already know that Kafka gained his kaiju abilities when the little kaiju termite jumped down his throat, but the idea that it can be taken back is crazy! Obviously, that's only if we're to believe that No. 9 is talking literally. He could be planning to capture Kafka and forcibly turn him to their side, which seems a lot more likely to me right now, especially considering what we just witnessed with Kafka completely losing control. My only issue with all of that is, the little kaiju inside him seems to really hate other kaiju, so what would No. 9 do about that? No. 9 also makes it seem like these kaiju powers aren't a unique thing. Have they been manufacturing these things? If that's the case, maybe the one inside Kafka is like a defective unit. Furthermore, these bugs could even be what creates identified kaiju class threats, which would separate them even more from other kaiju, other than just through fortitudes. Moving on to Kaiju No. 6. Oh my god! The amount of casualties from this past event sounds insane. It must have been a serious ordeal. And learning that Isao's wife was a Defense Force officer who died in that battle was a huge win for me. I really wanted this to be true because it tells us a lot about Isao's character and what made him to be how he is and why he's so hell-bent on eliminating the Kaiju Scourge. There's so much we can learn about his past from what happened then. I would love for them to dedicate an entire flashback arc just to this event. They could even do like what Jujutsu Kaisen did and create a volume 0 for it. I would be gassed by that. I also love the little detail about Kaiju No. 6's weapons being kept in cold storage. I fully expect them to break that bad boy out and give it to someone when the time arises. The fact that Isao said the weapons were kept in storage due to a lack of compatible officers means it's more likely going to end up in the hands of one of the new rookies. My vote's on Reno. And can we just take one final look at Okanogi? Come on, look at this guy. So damn cool. Matsumoto really seems to know how to make aesthetically pleasing characters. Or, if I had to put it another way, he seems to know how to make characters that most fans will love. It's so obvious that this guy's going to be a fan favourite. This turned out to be a longer video than usual, so no long outro today. I've worked hard on getting this video out as quickly as possible after a chapter drops, so if it does well, I'll try my very best to do that as often as possible. Anyways, go read Kaiju No. 8 some more, and please subscribe if you want to see more from me chatting bear breeze about anime or manga or something. Haters.